In this video, we're going to do an entire scientific study on the manipulation of cellular metabolism using higher carb diets. So this is going to be an in-depth scientific study on metabolic manipulation. So in this study, we're going to go through an actual case study with my client Chris, who's 40 years old, down 33 pounds, eating the same calories in both of these photos. We're going to go through how your metabolism actually down-regulates over time. We're going to go through metabolic priming and what has to be done first. And then we're going to go through metabolic priming, how predictable is it really? And then I'm going to go through step by step what we implemented for Chris to rejuvenate his metabolism, manipulate his metabolism to eat more food, lose more body fat, and get lean 33 pounds down, eating the same amount of calories. So we're going to cover a lot of good stuff today, a lot of scientific-based strategies, and so stick around to the very end because I'm going to make sure to lay it out for you nice and neatly so you really understand how you can actually manipulate your metabolism eating more food. If you guys don't know me by now, my name's Adam Bunnell. I'm an online metabolic specialist, and I specialize in high-level strategies that manipulate your metabolism through correct dieting, correct nutrition, and correct form within how you actually utilize higher-level approaches. So, in this study, let's get right into it. So, we've helped almost 400 men with this exact study just in the last 6 months alone. We're one of the top upcoming online fitness programs for the actual strategy that we use them and the methodology that we use from a scientific perspective. So, getting right into the video, let's kind of start with where Chris was at, right? And so, we've got my notes right here on Chris. He's currently in a 2-month plateau on the left, weighs 244, 6'3", goal is 15% body fat. He has a home gym with Olympic bar and plates, has a bad lower back but goes to PT. Thinks losing weight will help. His current workouts are 2 days per week and 10K steps a day. He eats 2,300 calories, 280 grams of protein, 150 grams of carbs, and 98 grams of fat. So, first of all, when I look at this, the first thing I realize is that, one, he's overeating on protein, he's undereating on carbohydrates, and he's overeating on fats. So what tends to happen when you start to overeat on protein is, one, a little bit of digestive issues, but also there's not a really key mechanism in place that actually is manipulating hormones that allow for the reduction of cortisol. So when you have a higher fat intake, a lower carbohydrate intake, and a higher protein intake than what your body necessarily needs, it can cause digestive issues. And this is because fat is very slow digesting, and there's a detrimental return on benefit to protein after a certain amount. So for our clients, the most I will go up in protein is 250 grams. And the reason is because after 250 grams, there's a detrimental return on effect when you could actually have carbohydrates in this place to actually reduce cortisol and reduce inflammation, as well as the fat intake being a little bit higher than normal. Fat intake, for instance, has a thermic effect of 3, which the thermic effect of food is how many calories it takes your body to break down the food. So very low thermic effect, very slow digesting. And that's the thing people don't realize that within fat is that it is very slow digestion and can cause a lot of digestive-related issues, especially when you have a higher protein intake. So notice on the left, he's at 2,300 calories. It's honestly pretty low for a 6'3" guy, right? Pretty low in calories. On this side right here, he's actually at 2,200 calories, 2,300 calories. I think it was like 22.5. But what I'm saying is that there was no really key mechanism of actually lowering a lot of the cortisol his body was inducing. And when you are stuck with a lot of cortisol on your body, you can actually start to prohibit fat loss in a sense. So it's really important to note. So getting into metabolic adaptation, how your body actually does down-regulate, and for a lot of guys listening who are at around 2,000, 2,300 calories, but you're kind of spinning your wheels, there's something that's not aligned with your body. And for the guys who've been dieting for extended periods of time, what happens over time is your body starts to down-regulate your metabolism, right? It's an essential body function that protects you at times of food scarcity. And what happens is you start to burn less calories at rest. So your basal metabolic rate can down-regulate due to aging, natural decline in muscle mass, consuming very low-calorie diets as a survival response, prolonged severe caloric restriction, certain medications like antidepressants, low thyroid hormones, and significant rapid weight loss. So the faster you lose the weight, basically the quicker your BMR down-regulates. The more muscle tissue that you lose, the more your BMR down-regulates. Very low caloric restrictive diets, the more your BMR down-regulates. So Understanding how your metabolism works, why it's important to note that your BMR is extremely important when it comes to overall fat loss, is because it does make up 60 to 70% of where your actual calories are burned per day. So the other percentages are thermic effect of food, non-energy activity thermogenesis, and exercise activity. So keep note that 5 to 10% of how you burn calories a day is exercise activity, all right? So why do we use a higher carb diet, and why do you want to use a higher carb diet when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to sustainable fat loss? Well, one, carbohydrates play a substantial role in essential body functions, providing cellular energy for processes of the brain and physical activity by acting as the primary fuel source. They also aid in preserving muscle. So remember how we talked about the more muscle that you lose, the more your BMR downregulates. They also aid in preserving muscle mass and protein by preventing the breakdown for energy. They help with lipid metabolism and including dietary fiber, which is crucial for digestive health, and maintaining blood glucose and cholesterol levels. So note that we talked about how your body downregulates is one, low caloric restrictive diets, losing muscle tissue. Digestion as a whole starts to become a little bit skewed when we start to eat higher fat diets. So utilizing carbohydrates, we can already start to solve a lot of the actual problems that are solved with downregulation of your metabolism. So energy storage, protein and fat metabolism. So providing sufficient energy, carbohydrates prevent the body from breaking down proteins for fuel, ensuring proteins are available for essential roles in building and repairing tissue. Carbohydrates are necessary for the efficient function of lipid fat metabolism, providing the energy needed to access and utilize stored fats. Okay, so getting back into your BMR, why do we understand that carbohydrates are better for fat loss? So when we correlate the factors causing downregulation, carbohydrates helps build muscle tissue, especially while coming out of severe caloric deficit. So as you age, you start to lose muscle tissue, which is a metabolically active tissue. This reduction in lean body mass leads to a lower BMR. So people who lose weight very quickly and lose a lot of muscle tissue downregulate their metabolism even faster. So I have a lot of guys always come to me and say, I want to make progress fast. I want to lose fat fast. And I completely get it. I understand that losing fat fast is important. But losing fat fast isn't always sustainable. We have guys come to us and say, hey, can I get this done in a month? Yeah, we could get it done in a month, but can you sustain it after a month? Probably not, right? Because when you start to downregulate your metabolism is where you actually start to fall into a lot of actual weight regain, and in a lot of cases, even more weight than you've actually started with. So we have to reverse diet, and we have to gain leverage back. So at 2,300 calories for Chris, it doesn't make much sense to go into even severer caloric deficit when his body's already fighting fat loss. When you drastically cut your caloric intake, your body interprets it as starvation and slows its metabolism to conserve energy, thus lowering your BMR. The faster you lose weight, the more likely you are to gain it back due to lower your metabolism. So metabolic adaptation from weight loss. Even when losing weight gradually, your body can enter a state of metabolic adaptation, where your body starts to decrease its BMR more than expected, a protective mechanism against further energy loss. This effect is pronounced with faster weight loss. So like I said, fast weight loss isn't sustainable weight loss. And I know that it's hard to understand and be patient, but the whole process of metabolic priming in general is to teach you the necessary traits and activities that actually align with longevity. So like I mentioned, we have a lot of guys message us and say, hey, like, can I get a meal plan for a month? Hey, can I make progress in a month? Can I get these 30 pounds off in a month? Yeah, you probably can, but one, it's not going to be sustainable because 80 to 90% of people who lose, 50 plus pounds don't keep it off, right? And many sources say that even in 85 to 95% of people who lose weight regain it or more within a few years. And that's because people don't lose weight the right way. And understanding losing weight the right way, you can do it two separate ways. You can do it over and over and over again the wrong way, or you could just do it once the right way. So one, it's two different scenarios. Like you could go fast or you could go slow. But the thing is, when you go slow, like you're more likely to keep it off. If you go fast, you're more likely to do it over and over again. It's the tortoise in the rabbit race, the slower the progress you make, the better long-term win that you have. So as well as carbohydrates in effect and with overall hormone imbalances, a decrease in thyroid hormone levels and a condition known as hypothyroidism can directly slow your metabolism and decrease your BMR. So carbohydrates fix thyroid issues. So getting enough carbohydrates in your diet can reverse T3. Not eating enough carbs will increase it, thus blocking the important work of T3, because the amount of carbohydrates in your diet is directly linked to your levels of T3, the thyroid hormone. So the effect of caloric restriction and dietary composition of serum T3 and reverse T3 in men, they concluded that dietary carbohydrates is an important regulative factor in the T3 production of men. So these low-carb diets that you guys are going on not only are low in calories by default, because when you cut out a macronutrient, you cut out calories and you go severely calorically deficit, you lose weight really fast, yes. But you downregulate your metabolism. You don't have a mechanism of carbohydrates that actually restore T3 levels and keep T3 levels in check, and that's why you keep gaining it back. So lack of physical activity particularly lead to loss of muscle mass. Yes, we know that. But gradual weight loss, aim for slower, more consistent weight loss to minimize metabolic adaptation. Ensure your diet provides adequate protein, essential nutrients to support your body's functions. So they say everywhere, the most beneficial diet is the most well-balanced diet. Carbohydrates, fats, and protein. You need them all in your diet because they all play a specific role in hormone regulation. We use a higher carb diet, yes, but we don't go completely no fats. We just lower the fats to make sure that we are maintaining hormone levels, we're maintaining testosterone levels, and we're maintaining all the important necessary functions that align with having a good fat intake. But we don't cut everything out. We have to know just how much to actually hit. So protein intake sufficiently affects metabolism by increasing the thermic effect of food, boosting satiety to reduce overall caloric intake, and helping to maintain or build mass, which also elevates the metabolism. So this is what has to happen first before we actually go into a structured fat loss phase. We have to fix the metabolism, because if we're fighting against the body's natural response to starvation, then we're going to be hitting a wall that will never be crossed. So metabolic priming with carbs refers to strategic manipulation of carbohydrate intake to optimize the body's metabolic processes, particularly for fat burning and energy production. It's a technique used to prepare the body for fat loss phase or improve athletic performance by enhancing the efficiency of how the body uses and stores energy. Preconditioning the metabolism, enhanced fat burning, optimizing energy production, support muscle growth and repair, and then it's a very individualized approach. So keeping a note is that we want to support muscle growth and repair muscle growth so we can have more longevity when it comes to fat loss. Because the more muscle tissue that you lose in a fat loss phase, the more weight you'll actually gain back, right? Because metabolically actively protein is has a high thermic effect, but your actual muscle tissue is very metabolically active. And so we want to have a higher protein intake, a lower fat intake, start with a moderate carb intake, yes, but eventually push carbohydrates to restore essential body functions. So breaking down the overall effect of where we're at and where we're wanting to get is that this is what happens with metabolic adaptation, is that over time, as you start to undereat, you start to lose weight, yes, but you actually start to burn less calories. So your TD actual is directly correlated to your actual caloric intake. So if you're eating 3,200 calories, then yeah, your body's going to be burning, a good amount of calories. But if you're eating 23, where Chris is at, your body's burning less calories. So we have to reverse engineer this and work this back up before we start working back down, right? Or your body's going to be fighting against natural productions of hormones, natural production of energy conservation and starvation. So we have to fix this first. But the question is why carbohydrates? Why is carbohydrates so beneficial? Well, one, yes, carbohydrates correlate to the biggest part of your metabolism, right? Your basal metabolic rate. They help with thyroid function. They help with reduction of inflammation, adrenal fatigue. They help with clarity within your overall brain because your brain runs off glucose. And so for tailoring to the biggest part of your metabolism, carbohydrates just makes the most sense because it just tailors to 70% of already how you burn calories per day. So carbohydrates can also indirectly affect non-energetic thermogenesis, right, which makes up 15%. So how do we put certain processes in place with our clients to ensure that we are getting the correct amount of non-energy activity thermogenesis from caloric burn is we put steps into their plans. What we'll do start with like 8 to 10K steps a day so that their body is moving. And yes, you can say steps is a form of cardio, but when you break down the cardio zones, steps is a form of low intensity cardio that's a very low barrier to entry, non-inflammatory, and aids in digestion. All aspects of improving the metabolism. So yes, like takes a little bit more time, but it's a slower burning cardio source. So not necessarily a cardio source in our sense, it's more of a non-energy activity thermogenesis activity. So why we want to do this is because, one, at a walking state, your body utilizes more fats, right? It burns more fats because when you understand the zones of cardio, 1 through 5, the higher the zones of cardio that you utilize, the more carbohydrates your body actually burns. The lower the zones of cardio, the more fats your body burns. And so keep that into note because it is important to note why we do add actual like higher level activity in the form of like zone 4 and zone 5 workouts when it comes to cardio later on in our clients' plans. Because yes, we want to be burning carbohydrates to put ourselves in a glucose fasted state that we can utilize intercellular triglycerides to actually be mobilized and later then oxidized in the fat loss process. But none of that even matters at first, because if you are metabolically gridlocked and your body is metabolically in purgatory, there's no really point in putting more inflammation on it because you're going to just put yourself in a worse position. So we have to fix what's first. We have to cut cardio. We have to add walking steps to aid in the thermic effect, non-energy activity thermogenesis, and then we have to switch the body into a carbohydrate metabolism state to optimize the last part of the process, which is the thermic effect of food. So carbohydrates influence digestion by providing the fuel for processes and impacting how quickly other foods are digested. They are broken down into glucose, the body's primary fuel source, like fiber to aid in the digestive process itself. So remember, 10 to 15% of how your body burns calories is your digestion, right? Which is twice the amount of what you actually do actually at cardio. So the thermic effect of fat, like we mentioned, is 3%. The thermic effect of carbs is 10%. So simply switching Chris's 98 grams of fat for carbohydrates aids in having a 3 times as much thermic effect, aids in better digestion, aids in having cleaner bowel movements and feeling like we are moving things properly, if you know what I mean. So carbohydrates are the body's main fuel source energy, and during digestion, they are broken into glucose, which is then used by cells for various functions. So increased thermic effect of food, higher caloric burn, metabolically boost. This increase of thermic activity means your body burns more calories for several hours after eating, and it increases fullness. Protein stimulates the release of hormones like GLP-1, which make you feel full and satisfied. So yeah, like this is the kind of approach in the methodology that we use, is we use a higher carb, higher protein diet and a lower fat diet. Why? It's because we have more thermic effect. We're more satiated. We're more full. We have more mechanisms of a better digestion. And then we also have a mechanism of reduction of inflammation, right? And then improved digestion with a lower thermic effect of food. So all of this into place is that, yes, this is the actual methodology that we use. We don't want to go zero fats, and we don't ever want to go under 40 grams as well. Typically for our clients, the lowest that we'll go is 45, maybe 50 at the lowest. Because fats, for instance, they do play a crucial role in the uptake of nutrients. They play a crucial role in the uptake of hormones, and they also play a crucial role in the actual uptake in human growth hormone within HDL cholesterol. So it's like we need fats in our diet. We don't want to go no fats. Because it does come to a sense when you go too low in fats, it starts to detriment digestion as well. Just understanding the overall process and how it actually you uptakes nutrition and uptakes nutrients. We want some fats in there, but we don't want to go too low. We don't want to go too high. We want to utilize a higher protein, higher carb diet for a higher thermic effect of food, building more muscle tissue, and also increasing thermic effect of food. But we want to keep fats low, but keep fats mitigated. So it always comes in context. We have to understand how much, because the how much is important. important. So how predictable is this? This is probably what you're asking, right? If you guys have watched my channel by now, you've seen hundreds of my case studies. But like if you're new to the channel and you're like, dude, what is metabolic priming? Like, how does it work? Like, is it predictable? Metabolic priming for fat loss is initial diet for the diet phase where you can gradually increase your caloric intake and focus on building muscle, which is important in being metabolically active, through resistance training to boost your metabolism and improve your body's ability to burn fat for energy. This prepares your body for a subsequent caloric deficit, allowing for more effective and sustainable fat loss. So what we're doing here for Chris, and I'm going to show you how we did this specifically, but we're trying to get his 2,300 calories up so we have more leverage to work with. Because if we were to go from 23 downwards, obviously that's not very much. We're already pretty low in calories for a 6'3" man. But if we were to start at 3,200 calories, right, we would have a lot more leverage in calories to actually take from. So obviously, how does that work? Like, how do you get up to 3,200 calories without gaining any weight? Well, let me show you. But how metabolic priming foundation works is we want to build a strong foundation. We want to build the foundation of muscle tissue for longevity. We want to increase calories and protein, gradually increase food intake to ensure high protein to support muscle growth and repair. Focus on resistance training, so the calories that we are using, we're putting to use to build muscle, and we want to improve metabolic efficiency. This phase teaches your body to burn fuel efficiently, making it ready to effectively use fat for energy when you eventually cut calories. So why metabolic priming is effective? It boosts metabolism, preserves muscle mass, sustainable fat loss, and prepares the body for a deficit. So metabolic priming is a predictive of fat loss success because it involves the body's optimizational hormone imbalances by improving metabolic efficiency before starting a diet to prevent the negative effects of metabolic adaptation. By maintaining a higher caloric intake for a period, the body's metabolic rate and hormone signals like leptin and ghrelin, the satiety and hunger hormones, are kept in a healthy state, which makes the subsequent caloric deficit more effective and sustainable for fat loss and helps prevent weight gain. So basically a pre-diet stabilization, you could call it. You correct hormone imbalances, you improve your metabolic rate and maintain a higher metabolic rate so you don't have to go very low in calories. You don't have to starve, and so that you're more subsequent of falling off the plan. And then you're going to have better adherence because of that. Sustainable fat loss, reduced weight gain. In essence, metabolic priming is strategically preparing the phase that optimizes the body's internal environment, making it more receptive and capable of achieving fat loss through subsequent calorie-controlled diet. So, now that we know all this, how do we do it effectively? It's a great question. So what we'll do, and I'll take you right through what we did for Chris, is, okay, so Chris is at 98 grams of fat, 150 grams of carbs, and 280 grams of protein. So what we needed to do from that perspective is we needed to give him a caloric shift, right? And what I mean by caloric shift is I don't mean calories, is that we want to give him a macronutrient switch. So we want to keep him at the same amount of calories he was eating, which is right around that 2,200 mark, but we want to give him correct macronutrients, all right? So what I mean by that is we'll lower the protein intake, and I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what we did give him, but I'm going to try to name it off the top, is it typically would be like 225 grams of protein, 60 grams of fat, and then we'd fill the rest with carbohydrates. So what it would look like for him particularly is like he's not eating any less calories, but now he's eating the correct macronutrients to support essential body functions, to reduce inflammation, to improve all the cortisol-related effects that are actually happening within his body, and to improve overall hormone optimization. And we're improving metabolic rate and metabolic function by optimizing the body for actual correct macronutrients. So it's not we're not like eating any more, any less. We're just eating the correct amount now, the correct amount of each. And when you understand macronutrients, each one does play a vital role in how your body looks and how your body plays and looks and feels and just in overall hormones and even blood panels as well. And so we needed to give him the correct macronutrients. So what we did, and he started at 244 right here, as you can see. And like I said, just very highly inflamed, just not tight, lost a lot of muscle tissue from years of chronic dieting. And this is not the first time Chris has done this type of diet. Like he's been dieting for some time now, and he just kind of gains it all back every time, which is what I see most often. So I want you to watch what we do. Every week as he checks in, we check his body composition, we checked his weight, and we just raise the food ever so slightly. So notice like over just the first 2 weeks, how much his intersection actually starts to deflate. And so he's getting up to 2,600 calories and he's getting leaner, 25 grams of carbohydrates. And we're just using carbohydrates as a mechanism. That's all we're doing. We're just using more carbohydrates as a mechanism. So we get him all the way up on 328 to 3,000 calories. So he's eating 8,000 calories more, but he's down 6 pounds. And I know, like, if you were to say on him on the street and he's like, yeah, I lost 6 pounds, nobody would give a shit, right? But the thing is that the thing with metabolic priming is that it's meant to be sustainable lifelong, right? It's sustainable fat loss. It's not quick long-term fat loss. And so, like, in a lot of cases, we'll see clients like this that maybe don't lose much weight within the metabolic priming phase. But what we're doing is we're gaining leverage. And I think the importance of what we do as a program is we are constantly showing him his side-by-sides. It's like, hey, we're still making progress. All good. You're on the right track. Just stay with it, right? Because it is very psychologically and emotionally draining when you're dieting and you don't see as much progress as you'd like to. But you have to understand the long-term goal if you want long-term sustainability and long-term success with fat loss. Because it's not all about quick and sustainable fat loss. We've read countless studies over the years of people who do quick fad dieting, like low-carb, keto, carnivore, that just gain it back every single week or every single 2 weeks. And you have to understand it's a mental game. And so having, obviously industry leading professionals like the coaches we work with, we are able to tell them, like, hey, you're on the right track. I understand, but we're getting there. Like, just wait until we can really start to build your BMR up. So yes, he's down 6 pounds. He looks leaner, but obviously he's like, after a metabolic priming phase, this is the actual goal. Is all we were trying to do is build more leverage. But here's where the magic starts to happen. So after we just cut 75 grams of carbohydrates, we lower 50 grams of carbohydrates. Look what happens with him after just cutting some food at not even 2,500 calories now. We just cut some food and added 25 minutes of cardio 5 times a week. That's what it was right here. But notice how much of a sufficient change this is now that we've built the overall impact of having more ground to work with. We've built more leverage. So now we can start utilizing cardio, caloric deficits, and understanding and mitigating any inflammation that comes along the way, maintaining muscle tissue. Because we want to maintain muscle tissue, because if we're losing muscle tissue, then we're losing metabolic rate. And if we're losing metabolic rate, we're more likely to gain it back. So check out what happens over, and then we even give him a deload to reduce inflammation. And he's still at 2,500 calories right here. So keep in mind, this is 200 calories more than where he was when he came to us. It's 200 calories more, but look how much leaner he's starting to get. So what do? We actually raised the step intake, right? We actually just started to raise steps a little bit. Where I started to raise overall non-activity thermogenesis. And then, potential refeed we'll do. So a great question to actually answer in this is like, when do you do refeeds? Like, when do you understand when to do refeeds with clients? So there's a couple instances we'll do refeeds, and one would be if our body looks a little bit inflamed. And how we know our fatigue is high is one, our clients will tell us. We have a check-in form that we use with our clients. They'll check in with their hunger, their fatigue, their energy levels. And so we'll be able to note exactly how much fatigue we're actually inducing on the body based upon certain KPIs. So let's say a client comes to us and he gives us an energy level of 3 and a hunger level of 10. Well, that means one is that, his energy is low, his hunger is high, so his body's highly fatigued. Like it's hitting the red zone. So in those specific cases, we'll give clients refeeds to rejuvenate and restructure the metabolism by improving T3 levels. We'll give 50 to 100 gram carbohydrate refeed. So there's 3 ways that you can do refeeds. You can do a single day refeed, which just kind of helps break a fat loss plateau, kind of keeps you back on track, kind of rejuvenates the mind and puts you back in line. You can do a 2-day refeed with 100 grams of carbohydrates for 2 days, which will actually fix a lot more hormone-related issues, right? Like, it'll fix a lot of T3-related issues, a lot of thyroid, a lot of testosterone, a lot of energy levels. And then you can also do a week-long diet break. So clients who've been dieting for some time now will do a week-long diet break. We'll give 100 grams of carbohydrates. We'll cut all cardio for a week. And we will just give them a week off of, you're reducing a lot of inflammation. And a lot of times when we put guys on week-long diet breaks, will actually lose like 10 pounds because we're reducing all the inflammation. But that's important to note, is that it's not always like a one-way street. It's not always eat less, do more. We have to understand inflammation, cortisol, and what's really holding us back. So anyways, we got him actually up pretty high amount of steps. He preferred doing steps over cardio, and we obliged him. Like, we're fine with that. We lowered fats a little bit to even improve digestion a little bit more, because when it does come to fats, you can understand that fats are like a dial, right? Fats are a dial to digestion. You turn fats up, you slow down digestion. So like clients who are struggling to keep weight on, we'll turn fats up a little bit, just 10 grams. Clients who need improvement in digestion will dial the fats down a little bit, 10 grams. So think like he got to like 50 grams right here. That's typically the lowest we'll get a client. But like, check out what his back looks like, starting to look like now. Look how much tighter his back is and his love handles are at still 2,200 calories. So keep in mind, this is the exact same calories in both of these photos. Exact same calories. But we optimize his body's metabolic processes. We optimize his body for fat loss, and we optimize it for sustainable fat loss. And then he checked in this week, and like, he has like actual visible abs now. He's gotten to tighten up a little bit. His side shot is completely just looks wicked. And I texted him this, like, when he submitted this, and we actually put it in the community too. And I was like, dude, we did it. Like, dude, this is amazing. He's 33 pounds down eating, and this is the same amount of calories in both photos, guys. 2,200 calories in both these photos. He's got a few weeks left on this cut, and we're going to push him back a little bit more. But, like, what happens next? Because, like, this is an amazing transformation, right? He's tightened up. He's eating the same amount of calories. It's a sustainable fat loss. He's not starving. He's gained muscle tissue. You can see in his, like, biceps, he's gotten stronger. He's got a few more weeks left. So, like, what happens now once he gets to this point? Well, this is what happens. We go back in to an actual fat loss, metabolic priming phase, where we restructure the metabolism once more for more sustainable fat loss. So you can think about metabolic priming as like a never-ending cycle that you can just continually get leaner with each and every time. Because as we start to gain more calories back for Chris, he's going to start to build more muscle tissue once again. He's going to start to will maintain his weight to make sure he doesn't gain any more weight. He's still 33 pounds down, but we're going to start to build more leverage and go back in leverage building mode. And then we can, once we do build the leverage we need to, we can go back and do another fat loss phase. And that's how you see the clients that you see within our program who are just, getting absolutely disgustingly shredded, eating more food or eating the same amount of food, is because this is the process that we use. It's a predictable mechanism of actual structuring macronutrients based upon how your body looks and where your hormone levels lie. And this is like what all the guys in our program and how they're seeing as much progress as they are, is because we actually use a mechanism of science that aligns with your biology, not just some fad dieting mechanism that you see online or your best friend tells you about that you said, hey, there's this new diet out there. We actually use a mechanism of science that actually tailors towards your metabolism, helps rejuvenate your metabolism, keeps your metabolic rate intact, and this is why you're seeing the transformations that you're seeing coming out of our program. Like I said, we are the top upcoming online program on the internet as of right now because of the strategic methodology that we use with our clients' metabolisms. And this is what it looks like perfectly. And there's client after client after client after client who we've used this exact process with. And like I said, it's not only predictable, but it's repeatable and it's sustainable, which is like, what everybody wants most in general. So if you're somebody like Chris who's been stuck in a low carb dieting lifestyle and you need the extra level of help, and this channel isn't enough to get you to where you want to get, there'll be a link down below for our program, because the value you get like from our expertise and our industry leading coaches isn't necessarily with the plan itself. I'm sure that you guys could probably, find a plan through my channel that kind of helps you make progress. It's the clarity and direction of knowing you're doing the right thing. Because like for Chris, he dropped 6 pounds in, 8 weeks. It's very mentally tough. I'm not going to lie. It's like when you think only dropped 6 pounds in 8 weeks, but when you look back and you look back at the progress he's made, then you start to understand the full picture. So the overall mindset and being aligned with the guys in our program, because we work with 185 guys in our current community right now, and like being surrounded by the environment that you are, that's what makes the program what it is, right? And you'll hear guys after guys after guys talk about the actual community involvement and being a part of the online community, which is like the most beneficial thing, because it helps keep you the mindset and helps keep you on track, as well as just being surrounded with like-minded individuals who have families, who have jobs, who are business owners, and who have similar, lifestyles that you can actually interact with and know that, you don't have to do it alone. So like I said, if you're somebody who's just stopping by the channel and want to see some more information on how metabolic priming actually works, I hope that I was able to guide you on the correct path to understand how it works. But like all the nuances, like down to the macronutrient grams, down to the training approaches that we use, down to the supplementation that we use with vitamin minerals. Obviously, I keep that for my actual clients, and I keep that off my YouTube channel, just because 90% of what I give to my clients, I do not put on this channel. So like I said, if you're somebody who needs extra level guidance and you just want it all laid out for you, you want to do it right the first time, don't want to waste time, link will be down below. But if you're just stopping by, thank you for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.